Hey there, YouTube. I'm kind of back to my wild hair look, which I associate with Back to the Future. My meditation is coming from the future. As I said on Facebook to Alan recently, I like to think of coming here from the far distant future. It gives me a sense of detachment in a way. A lot's going on in the world here at this time. I've been writing about Wittgenstein, but in the same breath, since I'm going back and summarizing some of the things that I put in my undergrad thesis at Princeton, it's like I'm kind of in a tying off loose ends state of mind, and that means contemplating mortality, end of life kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, this culture gets a lot of flack for being immature about death and being in denial and stuff. There's a whole lot of books about that. I think we've done a lot to address that. By we, I mean, I'm thinking of writers that I've come across. I mean, I think whatever our culture is, it's a moving target. But I've taken the opportunity to engage with my friends on Facebook just about, serious contemplation of our own mortality. And that's something that in philosophy I think we need to do. And in general, and it works around Halloween. I'm thinking this could be another dimension to Halloween. And instead of all just candy and sugar coating, literally and figuratively, we could use this season to do some ritually serious contemplate. Like this would be a good time to make some arrangements, final affair kind of stuff, um, those kind of things, end of life meditations. And my friends have been good about that. They are joining me in doing that, which I really appreciate. Um, so I'm thinking philosophy again and how we need to move to a meta level sometimes. Like the end of power here, I noticed that Mark Zuckerberg is a fan of this book. What's going on in Hong Kong? What's going on here in North America? Protests, Britain, a lot of things are kind of falling apart, and I think there might be a unifying theme here, just having to do with the greater literacy that we have, and people no longer sort of buying or accepting. They're unable to believe in ways that you don't really have control over beliefs. That's the thing. In the Protestant tradition, there's kind of a sense that you can force yourself to believe things. It's called faith, but you can't always. Just like when I stare at English, I can't force myself to see it as meaningless symbols, even though I can look at other languages like that. And the same goes for music, perceptions in general. Once your perceptions are schooled, and I use that word on purpose, it's not a matter of choice sometimes to unschool. It's really hard to do. I think Wittgenstein, in his later philosophy especially, is engaged in a kind of unschooling vis-a-vis what philosophy schools you in. Like he's de-brainwashing himself in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of us are engaged in that, whether we call it that or not. And I want to end on the thought that in becoming more philosophical, adopting more of a meta language vis-a-vis what's going on, that takes you to doing work on yourself. I often, I came to this Maurice Nicole stuff fairly late in life, and I'm not a lifelong follower or anything of Ouspensky or like that, but I did notice when Bucky Fuller communicated with Ouspensky. I think largely because Ouspensky was interested in 4D, fourth dimension, and that was evolving into a meme that Bucky Fuller was going to use throughout his life as well. And you'll find in my other videos, I take that up. But what I'm saying here is, I think as we move into this time of sort of great overhaul, that it behooves us to adopt individual disciplines, like to not nurse resentment. This is where I'm joining Nietzsche here in seeing that the big enemy to happiness on planet Earth is grinding an axe, keeping score, perpetuating feuds, uh, keeping kind of like getting back, revenge. Now, I don't think there's any way to break out of that entirely, but if philosophy adopted a sort of martial arts view of a self discipline, not just speculating about problems of other minds or whatever the traditional sort of, or not just history either, but personal disciplines. So what I'm encouraging is that we recast philosophy as a combination of things, and it can take over where religion has, again, a lot of people just can't believe in the traditional religions. It's not a matter of choice. They just can't force themselves to believe what they don't believe. But I think in the philosophical tradition, we do have some room to develop more of a self-disciplines tradition than we currently have in our current stereotype of what philosophy is like, which is based a lot on the university model of a philosophy professor, which I'm not really knocking. These people are mostly skilled conversationalists who get along well with people they don't agree with. They're still quite able to have civil, decent conversations, and that's a sign of discipline. I like listening to philosophers chat with one another and disagree necessarily sometimes. I recommend that we continue that kind of discourse at a high level regarding world affairs, such as let's get Mark Zuckerberg, if he wants to talk about the end of power with others of some name recognition. Let's talk about where the world's going in a very overview kind of way without a lot of animosity and finger pointing and blame about the bad people and the demons among us. That, to me, that's what's immature: demonization and nursing hatreds. All right, I guess that's kind of a sermon almost. I'm heading downtown. I hope to meet Uncle Bill coming down on the train from Seattle for the day. He's in his 90s. And we'll go visit Lattice Gallery, which is not officially open yet, but is soon to open on a night I'll be teaching Python. So this is my chance to take Uncle Bill there. I have before in the early stages, and I'll be putting some of those pictures, dubbing them into this video, which I will upload later after this adventure. Also, regarding Maurice Nicole and the Ouspensky stuff, I don't think that's believable either to a lot of people. In other words, the ray of creation and all the metaphysical kind of stuff that's in any given belief system, that may not be your bag. And I think with Rorty and the pragmatists, what the philosophy there is let people create their own kind of belief system as their own personal work of art. You could call it your private language. If you want to elevate it to where a lot of people need to believe it, like with the climate change component, then of course you're rubbing into the sciences and data, and you have to substantiate more. But a lot of what we believe, we don't need to promulgate or proselytize or spread or propagandize. And I say those in, like, it's not a bad thing to propagate. Some beliefs deserve propagation. But what secularism is, it's not the stomping out of all beliefs and just having science be the one belief system. It's allowing all kinds of belief systems to flourish in sort of a live and let live atmosphere. It's a mediator, And of course, if what you do impacts the people around you, well, you will come up against them in a certain way, in a mediated way. And that's what I see secularism is about, not we're going to destroy all beliefs but one in particular. In fact, it's quite the opposite. And people need to get used to the idea, I would say, that their neighbors may think differently than they do. That's just how it's turning out in a world where things are shaken up quite a bit. People move around a lot, but then you can find your people too. There's room for enclaves and room for, on a smaller scale, having people of more or less uniform practice share facilities, skyscraper or whatever. All right, talk to you soon.